Is that 8:45? Yes. Welcome to the Monday, December 21st meeting of the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell. I'd like to invite PAC 845 to come forward and lead us in the pledge. We'd all stand and face the flag. PAC, you need to come forward. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I'd like each of the PAC members to come to the microphone and introduce themselves.
Say your name.
I'm Andrew Daughtry. I'm James Robertson. I'm Kyle Drury. I'm Andrew Baker. I'm Alec Powens.
It's good to have you tonight. Let's have a hand for PAC 845. Good job, boys. Do we have the chipper here? I don't see the chipper. Is the chipper coming?
Getting dressed.
Chipper's getting dressed. We'll hold off for the chipper. I'd like at this time to call upon Councilman Eigelhart to recognize our Finance Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And tonight we have another one of our regular annual awards for our Finance Department and all the great things they've done in our report. And I'll let Julia tell us more about that.
Okay, I want to try and get this out. I apologize to y'all tonight because I'm having trouble talking. I'm going to ask the managers to bring forth these awards and tell you what they mean.
That happened to me a couple of months ago, and I sympathize with you.
Thank you. So, these people that I'm calling up, I'm very proud of them, the work they do, and what these awards recognize and the work they have done. So first, I'm going to call up Wendy Johnson, our accounting manager.
It's my pleasure to announce that the City of Roswell has been awarded the Government Finance Officers Association's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for its Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the CAFR, for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2008. The certificate is a prestigious national award recognizing conformance with the high standards for preparation of a state and local government financial report. The city has received this award for the past 20 years.
And she has an excellent staff that works with her, that they were all tied up in various things tonight and could not be here. The next manager I'd like to recognize is Richard Brownlee, our purchasing manager.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce my staff, Sharice Glass, Buyer 1. Oh, come on up.
Come on up.
Mary Overstreet and Jerry Anderson. I'd like to read from a letter we received from the National Purchasing Institute. The Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award is designed to recognize organizational excellence in procurement. The award is achieved by those organizations that demonstrate excellence in procurement by obtaining a high score on a rating of standardized criteria. The program is designed to measure innovation, professionalism, e-procurement, productivity, and leadership attributes of the procurement function. The City of Roswell is one of only 59 cities in the U.S. and one of only 8 government agencies in Georgia receiving this award. Also, our agency has won the award for 5 consecutive years. As a surprise, we received just this morning Excellence in Achievement from the UPPCC, and I'd like to read from that award letter, which awards recognizes our fully certified staff. The Universal Public Purchasing Certification Council, UPPCC, honors and publicly names the City of Roswell as a 2009 recipient of the UPPCC Agency Certification Award in the small agency category. That's 11 of your staff. This award was created to formally recognize an agency's commitment to the value of certification in the public sector. Your organization is a fine example of what is becoming a strong indicator of success within state and local governments. This accomplishment speaks volumes of your agency's commitment and dedication to the profession and the skills and expertise that you bring to the public procurement industry. It is with great pride and honor to accept these awards on behalf of the City of Roswell, and we want to thank the Mayor and City Council for their support. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have a hand for this great group of people.
Thank y'all.
Julia, I want to thank your department for excellent work. It makes our job much easier, and because of the efforts of the finance department over the years, we've been able to maintain that AAA bond rating, which saves us thousands of dollars every year. And I think there are only about 60 cities in the United States who have a AAA bond rating. And that it depends upon a lot of things, but crucial to that is good accounting records and good financial reporting. And so thank your department for helping us maintain that AAA bond rating. It saves us money and makes us look good. Thank you, Julia. Let's have another hand for Julia in the finance department. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilmember DiPolito to approval. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Orleans. Does anyone in the audience or on the council have any questions about the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we have a resolution to address the height of the structure for C3 zoning to allow a governmental flag on a flagpole not to exceed 150 feet. And this was brought to us at the request of Councilwoman Laurie Henry. So I'll turn to Laurie Henry for her recommendation on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did happen to notice, though, that we've got a very important guest in the back of the room. Did you want to recognize that guest?
Oh, the chipper. I apologize. Yes. The chipper got here late and I overlooked. So if the chipper and Keep Roswell Beautiful would come forward, we want to welcome the chipper here. It's always good to see the chipper, and we got an announcement about Christmas trees.
Yes, sir. We have a very special announcement. I brought my friend, and actually Chipper was a little late because he was swimming down a stream and lost track of time. But season's greetings to everybody on the council and the mayor. And I want to tell you, Chipper told me a secret to tell you all, and we hope it doesn't stay a secret, and that is that Bring One for the Chipper is coming back for the 19th year. And it'll be January the 9th, and this is hard to say, 2010. Some of it's just hard to get out of 19-something, but it's going to be 2010, January the 19th, at the Roswell area Home Depots, the one east of 400, which is 1580 Holcomb Bridge Road, that's Holcomb Wood Shopping Center, and the one west, which is at 870 Woodstock Road, which is near Roswell High and Blessed Trinity in that area. So we hope that everybody will, while they're decorating those beautiful trees, that's wonderful, but don't let them go to waste and don't let them go into a landfill. Bring them to see us on the 9th of January, and we hope that all of the Chipper behave, Chipper. I need the chief over here to guard Chipper for a minute. We hope all of you will show up. We'll be glad to have you come and help us. Now, the folks that are going to be doing the tree unloading will be Kiwanis Club of Historic Roswell, the Key Club of Roswell High, the National Honor Society, the Beta Club from Roswell High, and the Junior ROTC from Roswell High. Those folks will be working the west side location. So we hope that you all will show up and visit with us for a few minutes, encourage us, and keep us going, and pray for decent weather. And while I'm here, I want to encourage all of you and all these folks to join Keep Roswell Beautiful, because that's one of the reasons we're able to do these sorts of things, because of your membership. We have a very simple membership structure. It's $50 for a family, $25 for an individual, and city employees, and we'll count city council in that group, $5. And if you can't afford that, come see me. I'll loan you $5. So we hope to see you on January the 9th, 2010 at the Home Depot offices, stores in the Roswell area.
And what do we do with the chips?
Well, you can ask the Davy Tree experts, or the guys that will be chipping them up. You can fill out a form. We have it online at keeproswellbeautiful.org, or you can fill out a form there and ask them for a truckload, and they'll deliver it to your home.
So you can have Christmas chips.
You can have Christmas chips for whatever you want to do with them. Whatever you want to do with them. So,
now I think Councilmember Wynn wants us to join us with a chipper for a photo. So if we'd all join the chipper.
You have enough room right here? Yeah, I'm getting that politician's turn.
Very good.
Move up from the cranking cameras.
Very good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Chipper.
Good job for finance and purchasing. This time I'll call upon Councilmember Laurie Henry to present the issue on the United States flag, which we just pledged.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is approval to allow Carl Black Chevrolet, located at 11225 Alpharetta Highway, a flagpole. The information on the screen and in your packet is 150 feet. However, I would like to change that to 140 feet. We've got a very rare opportunity in that Ted Baker with Carl Black Chevrolet has obtained a Garrison flag. I am not an expert on Garrison flags, but it's my understanding it's a large flag, and they are limited in number throughout the world. And he has the opportunity to fly the flag there at the Carl Black Chevrolet dealership on Alpharetta Highway.
Do you wish to make a motion? I
would like to make a motion for approval to allow the height of a structure in C3 zoning at the Carl Black Chevrolet, located at 11225 Alpharetta Highway, a flagpole of 140 feet that will be allowed to fly an approved Garrison governmental flag.
This would be a United States flag.
Yes.
We have a motion. Any discussion? Any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Council Michael.
Is that 140 or 150?
140 foot.
140 feet.
Okay.
The backup materials say 150. However, he did feel that 140 feet would be tall enough in order to fly this large flag.
We don't want it to drag the ground. Any other questions? Councilman DiPolito.
How does this, we currently have a zoning ordinance that restricts flags and flagpoles, how does this play into all of that as far as, do we need a variance, or is there some sort of a special permit? I guess I have a second question is, would it make sense for us to bring this to committee to talk about this? It seems like every time the flagpole comes up, we have a discussion about what's the right size for it and so forth. And would it make sense to use this as a catalyst to go to committee to come up with some objective criteria on how we decide what's appropriate?
The staff have a response. This would be just for this one piece, this motion.
That's my understanding.
And now, is this a proper motion? Do we have something? Is it going to get us into trouble if we just make one of these things? I want to get to Mr. DiPolito's question next. This is a proper procedure to approve this for one time, one location.
You might want to talk to the gentleman next.
Mr. Davidson.
Our zoning ordinance addresses governmental flags. This would be an approved governmental flag. It's an American flag, obviously. The issue here is the height of the pole needed to fly the flag. In C3, the maximum height is 40 feet. That is obviously too small. The flagpole is considered a structure. With an American flag of this size, it's up to this council if they want to approve this, but basically this is a variance to the height of a structure to fly an American flag, which is an approved governmental flag, which is non-commercial speech.
I guess the question is so this would be if we vote on this tonight, it's not establishing a precedent, it's just a one-time, one shot for this location.
That's correct.
Right.
For this type flag.
For this type flag. So Councilmember DiPolito is asking the council is whether we should defer this and look at a review of the ordinance in general. Is that correct, Mr. Councilman DiPolito?
Yeah, it seems that just from observing flagpoles and from the number of questions that come in, I think our ordinance of 40 feet may be on the low side. I think 140 feet is really high when cell towers are 150 feet. So maybe there's somewhere in between 40 and 140 that would be appropriate for this flag. Not being a flag expert, I can't tell you what is the appropriate size. And I don't know, do we have information on the size of this flag?
What size is the flag?
By definition, a garrison flag is 20 by 38 feet. It's the replica of the flag that was flown over Fort McHenry that was subsequently the inspiration for Francis Scott Key's penning of the Star Spangled Banner. So it's by definition 20 by 38 feet. The appropriate flag etiquette in height of pole is it should be the length of the flag, which is 38 feet, is supposed to be 1/4 of the height of the pole. So or the minimum. So if you multiply that out, it comes to 152, but that's the minimum, not the maximum. So 140 would suffice. And it's my understanding that there is a flag flying elsewhere in the city, a non-conforming flag that is pole that is 140 feet high.
Further discussion before we ask for a second. Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to agree with Mr. DiPolito. I really think that this needs to go to committee because, I think it's great that they got a garrison flag, but what happens if the Jaguar dealership comes in and has a garrison flag and somebody else has the same flag? We're talking about 150-foot flagpoles all up and down Highway 9. So I think, for us to find what's going to be compatible and what we can be comfortable with, I think it really needs to go to committee. And let's talk about it. And if we all decide 150-foot flagpole, then that's great, but I still think it needs to go to committee.
Well, we can talk about it tonight, and we can talk about it at committee, and so I'd like to have anyone else's opinions. My belief is that I love trees and I love American flags, and if I had a street lined with American flags 140 feet high, I think it'd be a beautiful sight.
Mr. Mayor,
that's my position.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not anti-American or anti-flag. I'm just saying that usually something like this, and when we're looking at amending or doing something to our ordinance, we usually bring it back to committee to talk to it there. I'm not saying I'm not against the 150 foot, but I think how we usually handle things like this is through a committee so we can have a lengthy discussion if that's what's necessary to come out with what would be, what would be good for everybody.
I just know on a personal level I'm ready to make a decision, but it's certainly up to the rest of the council how they feel. Further discussion before I entertain a second. Councilmember Lori Henry.
I would like to point out that while there is another existing 140-foot, we're not asking for 150-foot flagpole, 140 feet. There is also right up the street from Carl Black, Palmer Dodge has a 120-foot flagpole. And has staff changed their opinion on that?
Oh, the opinion on the height?
60 feet.
Oh, okay. I had been told that it was 120, so.
That was in here.
Okay. Regardless of that, I do think it's appropriate for a garrison flag, and it is my understanding that those are not mass-produced, that there's only a handful of them. Perhaps Councilwoman Price has information on that as well. She has a lot more information on garrison flags than I do. So.
The reason they're so rare is the size of the stars to be appropriately in proportion. It's real unusual to have the stars of that size, and so they're relatively rare and they're very expensive to produce.
Further discussion before I entertain a second. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Eichelhart. Further discussion. Councilman Orleans.
Approximately 2 years ago, there was a request from Carl Black he submitted a building permit for a flagpole, 150-foot flagpole. At the time, staff indicated that the called the flagpole structure, indicated that it could not exceed the 40-foot allowed in the C3 designation, as well as the flag would be considered a sign, and the maximum size of the sign area for the C3 area was 128 feet. What's proposed with the garrison flag is over 760 square feet of flag.
So tell me, what is the size of it is a sign, and how is that interpreted then?
The flag was considered a sign because it was identification for the location and could not exceed 128 square feet.
So do all these other signs fit into that? I mean, all these other flags fit into that?
At least that or less.
Pardon?
Yes.
Councilman Eichelhart.
Clarify then, given what Mr. Davidson said, that this is not considered to be a sign in that sense. Is that right, from what you said?
It depends on how you look at it. If this council, this is an American flag, so this council can declare that as a governmental flag, it's exempt from being a sign. You have to look at the purpose of it, and if it's to draw attention to the site, which that's for y'all to decide, then it could be considered a sign. If it's drawing attention to the business, but it is an American flag. It's a garrison flag, so it is an official governmental flag.
Okay, thanks. Well, I think I've definitely been a staunch opponent of some of the bigger signs, obviously, but in this particular case, I don't have a problem with this. And there were some locations in town that maybe it's not appropriate, but I do think, up on that area where there's some other things already, I don't have a problem with this particular one, so I'd support that.
Councilman Orleans.
Mr. Davison, just out of curiosity, since we're talking about this being a sign or a flag, we can't designate only American flags, can we? Or can we?
The way that it has read is official governmental flags.
Of any government?
Yes.
Huh? Pardon?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have a second? Oh, you already seconded. We have a motion and a second. Does anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this subject? Anyone? Any opinions, questions from the audience? Further discussion by council before we take a vote? Yes, sir, Councilman Orleans. 140 feet for a garrison flag, which we understand is a specific size, and it has to be a governmental flag, but I have no question of what flag that's going to be.
You said Palmer Dodge is 80 feet?
Yes. Motion and a second. Yes, sir, Councilman DiPolito.
Another question. All right, so this could be any governmental flag. Now, what happens if this property is sold? I mean, is this just restricted to a garrison governmental flag?
I think that's the way the motion was.
Could you
stated.
restrict it to the American flag, Councilman Davidson?
Well, since this is a variance to the height of a structure, I believe you can put any kind of condition on it you want to as far as the height.
I'm talking about, can you restrict it to the type of flag?
Well, you're granting the variance to the height based on the type of flag it is, so I would say yes.
So we could amend the motion to say an American flag.
A garrison American flag.
I believe that's what she said.
Is that your motion, that it be a garrison American flag?
Yes, sir.
Is that your intent of your second, Councilman Eichelhart? So we have a clarification here. It's not just any governmental flag. It is the American flag, and it's a garrison flag.
Yes.
Further discussion. Councilmember Wynn.
Is there a way just to make sure that if Carl Black did sell it, that if any other flag was flown, that we could have them take down the flagpole?
I believe the motion is for a American garrison flag, and so unless that garrison flag is flying, they could not fly any other flag on it.
They could just have a flagpole with nothing on it, but I don't think they'll do that. Further discussion.
I mean, that was my original question, to make sure the garrison is in the wording. But if that's all that can fly on it, and your point you just made up, is there something in this that the flagpole would come down instead of being an empty flagpole? Mr. Davidson? I mean, if it's set up for the American garrison flag only, or the pole comes down?
That's not in the motion, but that would be a condition of the flagpole being constructed. So, if any other flag goes up and it's not in compliance with your approval.
So you could probably say, if you want to, you could amend it to say that if 6 months go by and the American flag is not flown there, you could require it to come down. Could they do that?
No, the garrison American flag.
Yeah, the garrison American flag.
They could do that.
You could do that. Would you like to make an amendment?
Well, I just asked Councilwoman Henry if she can adjust her motion instead of amending it.
Yes, I would. I would say that if for any reason the American garrison flag is not flying for 6 months or more,
continuously for a period of 6 months or more, it's absent.
That it will be required to be dismantled, taken down, disposed of.
Is that acceptable to amendment, Kent?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a motion now. We'll recite the thing from the beginning to end.
Holy Pete.
Do you remember all that, Lori?
Did you forget I'm a lame duck? Okay, let's try this. This is an approval to allow the height of a structure in C3 zoning to allow an approved United States garrison governmental flag on a flagpole not to exceed 140 feet at 11225 Alpharetta Highway, Roswell, Georgia. And should this approved garrison United States governmental flag not fly on the pole for 6 months, 6 consecutive months, that the pole be removed.
Is that acceptable, Ken? We have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Councilmember Price.
Do we need to specify, or would we assume that all flag etiquette would apply?
I think if you try to get into flag etiquette, raising, lowering, and all those other things you're trying to get, it's tough to administer.
Does Councilwoman Henry know whether or not they plan to illuminate it at night or remove it?
Let me say this. I learned more about flag etiquette from Todd Baker than I just didn't realize all that was involved in it. They are very well aware and are very respectful of the flag, and I think that is one reason why they have been afforded this opportunity and honor to fly this flag. So I will be more than happy to double check on that, but I would say it's very safe to bet that they will go above and beyond the call of etiquette for this flag.
Okay.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon the Community Development Councilmember Richard DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on the Community Development agenda is CU 09-03, Pleasant Hill Youth Discovery House at 742 Bush Street. This item was deferred from December 14th. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this is a request for the Pleasant Hill Youth Discovery Center. It's 742 Bush Street. As mentioned, this item was deferred from the council meeting. It is located on Bush Street, occupying an existing single-family residence. It was recommended for approval by the Planning Committee. There is one recommended condition, or I believe 2 recommended conditions. There's also a requested variance for the current structure. This was enacted by code enforcement going to the House originally. Planning Commission recommended approval with 1 staff condition. In summary, staff would recommend approval of CU 09-03 with the 1 condition.
What is the condition?
Structure shall not be used for any overnight function.
Does the council have any questions? This time I'll hear from the petitioner.
Pastor Stephen Strickland, Senior Pastor of the Pleasant Hill Baptist Church, Roswell, Georgia. Of course, we are the ones petitioning for the teen house, 742 Bush Street, and I do want the mayor and council to know that we did have the opportunity to talk with Ms. Bohannon. We talked today, and we've come to, I believe, a good agreement, and our meeting went very, very well today. And based on our conversation last week, we talked about a couple of conditions that you all brought forth, but per the conversation that Ms. Bohannon and I had today, we talked about those conditions. We could consider those conditions, and we've come to the agreement that the teen house is fine with being open through the week with a closing hour at 9:30 p.m. We agree upon that. That's fine. Also, we brought up the issue of a buffer, and we're going to talk together and figure out what we can put up versus the fence that was not recommended by her but by you all. So versus us putting up a fence, we've talked, and we're going to work out what that buffer, what that might be. I know that we also have, along with us, the Hands of Mercy Extended, which sits on the other house. I think we're going to hear that separately, but same conditions in terms of our agreement with it, with its previous hours of operation on Wednesdays and I believe it's the second Saturdays.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions for Pastor Strickland? Councilmember DiPolito.
Excuse me. Pastor Strickland. Excuse me. So the Discovery House would only be used Monday through Friday, is that right?
No, actually, we just we'll go ahead and say through the week, Monday through Friday, but also on the weekends, so 7 days a week.
Okay, I'm confused then about the hours of operation.
The hours of operation will be from, well, we will not stay open any later than 9:30 p.m. So we talk about the opening hours. There's some things that we'll do after school, so probably from 4 till that 9:30 period.
But on weekends, you might have something earlier in the day.
On the weekends, we may have something earlier in the day. Yes, sir.
But you'll cease operations by 9:30, whether it's the week or the weekends?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. No, with no overnight functions.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Pastor Strickland.
Thank you.
Ms. Bohannon, is there anything you'd like to add to that? I know you're the neighbor. Nothing further from Ms. Bohannon. Do we have a motion? Wait a minute, before I go on, I apologize. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to be heard? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. DiPolito, back to you for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make a motion to approve CU 09-03 with the associated variance and with 3 conditions. The first being the structure shall not be used for overnight functions. The second, that any functions shall cease by 9:30 p.m. And the third, that there will be a buffer as agreed upon between the applicant and the neighbor, Ms. Bohannon.
I have a little concern with the third conditions, as we have not agreed upon that yet. So they've said they would agree, and I think if you impose a condition to be agreed upon, it makes it very difficult to have a resolution. Councilmember Wynn.
Yeah, because I was about ready to say, as approved by community development, whatever they brought forth. Ms. Bohannon, I'd like to know if she really wants a buffer or not, because I think it's really up to that, and then let them decide what type of buffer. But I think if there's a buffer that we're being discussed, it should be a part of the conditions.
So your suggestion would, rather than saying as agreed upon, to say as approved by community development?
Or something to that type of language, but I just want to make sure what I'm hearing from the pastors, both of them have agreed on some type of buffer. It's just what kind of buffer is going to be put up, if it's going to be an evergreen or fencing or something to that effect.
So what we're asking is that, can we handle that between us, is what we were saying.
You can handle it between you, but as a law, I've got my lawyer here on for a minute. There is a possibility that you may not come to agreement. I don't want this coming back to council. I would say that if you can't reach an agreement, then it's going to be up to somebody else, community development, to make that decision.
Yeah, I think what we can do is, as you know, what's brought to, as approved by community development, they don't come up with something that ComDev will decide.
Do you understand what we're talking about, Pastor Strickland? Yes. Mr. DiPolito, would you?
I accept that amendment.
All right, so the motion is to approve with no overnight functions, closing time at 9:30, and a buffer, fence or landscaping to be approved by, is this staff?
Yeah, by
community development.
Staff of community development. That is the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. I want to thank Pastor Strickland and the church and Ms. Bohannon for working this out and making our job easier. And I think it will be great for the community. So I appreciate everybody who supported this.
They're still here for the next item, too.
And you can do the same thing this time.
You'll proceed.
The next item is CU 09-04, Hands of Mercy Extended, 728 Bush Street, Landlot 414. This was deferred from the December 14th meeting. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this is for the Hands of Mercy Extended, located adjacent on Bush Street, right next to the Pleasant Hill Church. It was recommended for approval by staff, including the variance. This includes 2 conditions recommended by staff and 1 condition recommended by the Planning Commission. Staff would recommend approval. I believe these are probably going to be amended to be similar to the conditions before.
Now, other than the food pantry, what's operating out of this facility?
That's it.
Well, just a suggestion, if it's one Wednesday a month and one Saturday a month, y'all going to find other uses for that building, which may be appropriate. So I think you might be placing more conditions on this facility than I don't see you come back next year and say we've got other functions. So how important is that one afternoon a month and Saturday month. I'm hoping you get a lot of use out of this building, other than just twice a month.
That's us too. Well, what we want to do is, since, like I said, Ms. Bohannon and I talked, Teen House is on one side, Hands of Mercy Extended is on the other. What we want to do is just the Liberty, if we could just amend that and just have the Liberty to have the Hands of Mercy Extended be able to operate through the week also.
Have you talked with Ms. Bohannon about this?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So since we kind of talked, I don't know if you would have any objections against that, but it would fall in the same conditions.
Why don't we do this? Why don't y'all go outside and talk, and you bring this back another 30 minutes?
Oh, we won't take 30 minutes, Doc.
But we're going to call the next agenda item, and after the next agenda item, we'll bring this back.
Okay. Good.
And if you can't reach an agreement, then we may pass this, but I believe in taking care of business while you're here if you are in a position to reach an understanding. So if we'll just put that one on hold. And next item, Councilmember DiPolito.
The next item is changes to allow construction activity hours for residential properties. This is the second reading. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this is adding language to our current code section dealing with construction language, which allows for anyone that is performing the construction activity on his or her residence not be subject to the hours of operation. This is the second reading. Staff recommends approval of the proposed text amendment. Do you have any further questions?
Mr. Davidson, if you'd read the ordinance, please.
Thank you. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Roswell, Georgia, amending the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances. Now, therefore, to accomplish the foregoing, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following ordinance. The City Code of the City of Roswell, Georgia, is hereby amended by adding one sentence to Section 5.1.13, Chapter 5, Article 5.1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Georgia, and is hereby amended by adding the sentence, the foregoing provisions shall not apply to any person performing construction activity at his or her residence, but such persons are subject to the noise restrictions set out in Section 8.8.3S of this code. And if approved, this will be the second reading.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito for approval. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Orlins. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item is approval of an intergovernmental agreement for aerial imagery and centerline roads. And this one will be presented by none other than Ms. Wakefield.
This is a request to approve an intergovernment agreement for aerial photograph. This program is a partnership with the cities of Alpharetta, Dunwoody, Johns Creek, Milton, and Sandy Springs. All of the other cities have approved the attached IGA, and we're just asking that this body approve the IGA so we can move this matter forward.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon our Transportation Department, Councilmember Becky Wynn, liaison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This agenda item is to approve a program projects in the Transportation Improvement Program using MARTA offset funds in the amount of $1,687,000. Mr. Asenbrock.
Thank you, Councilmember Wynn, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The Atlanta Regional Commission will be reprogramming $25 million of MARTA capital funds in return for funding MARTA operations earlier this year using stimulus money. The City of Roswell is eligible based on a formula to program $1,687,000 in capital improvements. Eligible projects are those that are designed to augment and or enhance the existing MARTA bus service in the City of Roswell. In your packets, we included a matrix done. Oh. That's okay. There we go. Thank you. What we have done is put together a matrix here of 5 categories of projects that meet the intent of the MARTA guidelines for enhancing our transit operations within the city. With your permission, we would like to submit this as our going in position to be entered into the TIP and then to be programmed accordingly by the ARC. And then what we will do is enter into individual contracts with MARTA to execute these.
How rigid is this? Is there some flexibility? We bound strictly by these categories?
Great deal of flexibility, Mr. Mayor. This is really just a broad, each city, what they requested was that all of us individually put these programs together, and then they're going to bundle them all up. North Fulton, actually Fulton County is divided into north and south, but we'll bundle ours up and submit those. The county will submit those as a bundle, and then these are essentially our placeholders for this money.
So we can make changes to this as long as it's within the MARTA connection.
Guidelines, that's correct.
Other questions, Mr. Asenbach?
Mr. Mayor, yes, thank you. For the people in the audience, because this is very hard to read.
Okay.
Could you just kind of go
Sure.
down the project name so they understand what we're trying to do here?
We have divided, basically backed into this $1.6 million in 5 broad categories. The first one is multimodal safety improvements, which is basically what we call Finish the Connection, which is an extension of the Holcomb Bridge sidewalk projects that we're under construction right now that's going to go across the bridge, across 400, and basically balance east and west. The next category is bus stop amenities, which includes both the shelters and the benches. Another category is pedestrian safety improvements, which includes a Midtown Hawk beacon, which is essentially a traffic signal that dwells dark except when a pedestrian activates it. Then it stops the traffic, the pedestrian crosses, and then the signal goes dark again, which is a prototypical signal used in the state of Georgia now. We think there are several opportunities for us to use that. Also, various pedestrian signals at various locations. We also include another category of just crosswalks and then a final category of sidewalks.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Asenbach? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll return to Councilmember DiPolito to call the Hands of Mercy subject.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'd like to ask Pastor Strickland to come up to address the conditions for the Hands of Mercy extended.
All right. Thank you all for your patience. Ms. Bilhan and I did go outside, and what we've come to agreement in is that the Hands of Mercy extended, if we want to amend just the Wednesday and the Saturday. It can operate through the week, Monday, Sunday through Saturday, or Sunday to Sunday, from 12 noon to 6 p.m. So 12 noon.
7 days a week, 12 to 6.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Bohan, anything you wish to add to that? Does the council have any questions for Pastor Strickland? Do you have a question?
Yes, sir. There's no buffer mentioned on this side. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. No buffer mentioned on that
thank
side.
You.
There's already something already there.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve CU 09-04 with the accompanying variance and the condition that the food pantry shall operate during the hours of 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. only. The structure shall not be expanded. And that's all.
Just another question. Is this solely going to be for a food pantry?
Well, we'll also give away clothes there. It's our Hands of Mercy Extended. It's kind of our outreach house, so we give away clothes.
It's food and clothes and
yeah.
Do we need to amend that motion? Because we said food pantry. I'm asking staff if the giving away clothes would be encompassed in that motion. Food and clothes, could we say a food and clothes pantry? Mr. DiPolito.
Well, the applicant asked for a food pantry, so I guess it's up to the applicant.
Well,
to tell us what he's looking for.
He said he would. They're talking about giving away food and clothes and personal items. So I'm just trying. I want to make sure we don't have someone come back and says they're giving away clothes. Are you asking to give away food, clothes, and personal effects?
Yes, sir.
Could we, Mr. DiPolito, would you consider amending your motion?
Yes, I will. It's kind of unusual that we're negotiating on behalf of the applicant, but I certainly would be willing to do that.
So we have a motion to approve a food, clothes, and personal items pantry. This is a charitable project.
Pantry for food, clothing, and personal items.
Right, and operating 7 days a week from 6 to 12. I mean, from
12 p.m. to 6
12
p.m.
to 6. And those are the conditions.
And the second condition that the structure shall not be expanded.
Do you understand those conditions?
Yes, sir. Second condition of said structure shall not be expanded.
You can't add on to the structure. You
Wonderful.
have to come back to the city again to do that.
Absolutely.
All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second with those changes? Second. All right. We have a motion and a second. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Lori Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank you all. You are truly doing God's work and doing wonderful things in the community, and I applaud you for that.
Thank you so much.
I would also like to let Ms. Bohannon know that this board is keenly aware of these services being offered in a residential area, and you have them on each side of you, which can change the tone of your residential area dramatically. So I would encourage anything that you need in order for you to feel as though you have always felt in your home. I would encourage you to request that, because while this is a very, very good organization and doing wonderful things in the community, we also need to respect you and your lifelong residents here in Roswell. So I would encourage you to make sure that you get what you need in order of your buffers, et cetera. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This time we'll call upon Environmental Public Works Department Councilmember Betty Price.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item is for approval of Mayor and or City Administrator to sign a contract with BRI Utility Construction, Inc. for pipe replacement in the amount of $163,421. Also, approval for the Mayor and or City Administrator to sign a contract with Reynolds Inliner LLC for CIPP technology pipelining in the amount of $408,791, and also approval of budget amendment 7110CP-12-21-09 in the amount of $600,000 to establish emergency project 10ENV016 Highway 9 drainage repairs. And we'll have a presentation by Stuart Mooring, Director of the Department.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This is an emergency project that arose after the heavy rainstorms in September and October, and basically it blew out a structure that's situated on the east side of Alpharetta Highway in the front yard of the Taco Fiesta. On investigation, what we found is that the The corrugated metal pipe that had been there for some period of time, the bottom had rusted out, and as a consequence, the tremendous amount of water in the pipe scoured out the bottom so that it could not be contained in the structure, washed out the structure, and it collapsed. Further investigation revealed that the pipe is in bad shape from that point all the way down to Hogwalla Creek. So there are two elements of the project that need to be done. The first is the pipe replacement with 60-inch reinforced concrete pipe from Mansell Circle to the point of the failure, and that is the first amount, the $163,000 amount. The second amount is for lining of the remaining pipe down to the creek. That may require some remedial work, and that's why on both of these projects we've allowed a 20% contingency. This money is not currently budgeted, and so we have requested funds from the fund balance. I'll take any questions you might have.
Council have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Mooring. Do we have a motion? Councilmember Price, do we have a motion?
Yes, we do. Move to approve item number 8 as presented.
Motion by Councilmember Price for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll return to Councilmember Ken Eichelhart, Liaison to the Administration and Finance Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item is the approval for the mayor and the city administrator to sign a contract for banking services. And again, if Julia Luke can do that, we'll see.
Actually, I'm going to let Kay read my statement, if you don't mind, please.
Thank you. I'm going to be her voice. We issued an RFP for banking services.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I would like to move that we defer this issue back to the Administrative Finance Committee, since it has not been fully discussed in committee yet. We've always seemed to have missing council members, so I'd like to move it back to the committee for discussion in January.
We have a motion for deferral. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Price. Now, at this time, we'll have further discussion on deferral. First, I would like to hear from staff, and I know staff wants to get a decision because there's a cost involved in not making a decision. Could you quantify the cost of deferral? I'm not suggesting we do it either one, but I just want all the facts on the table.
Julia, I'll speak for your voice. And you can nod or say no. This has been on the agenda for several months, and we have had a problem of everyone being there. Some different council members have had other obligations. So I understand the need to discuss it at committee. I would just like to have the commitment of council that we place that first on the agenda so that we make sure it gets discussed. The cost is that the bank that we are currently with, and I can't quantify it in numbers for you because I don't know when it will be when we will make a decision on this, but the fees that we pay to the current bank, Wachovia, are higher than the fees that we would pay with the recommended bank.
Any idea on a monthly basis how much we would?
No, sir, I don't. I can't quantify that right now. We could go back to the banking analysis. Julia, do you?
Annually, based on what they turned into us, is a difference of around $30,000 to $35,000 annually.
So I guess divide that by 12.
12 goes into 36. What would that be? $3,000 a month. So
about $3,000 a month would be the. Right. And we're not asking you to defer it for a month. We're just saying defer it until first of the year. So it is important we make a decision. Councilmember Wynn.
Ms. Love, that would be on January 5. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. What? January 5th?
January 5.
We have a motion and a second for deferral. Does anyone in the audience have any comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilman Eichelhart.
Clarify that we would put this first because we have deferred this 3 or 4 times now because of that. So I think we needed to make a decision, but we can.
It will be first on the agenda. Correct, Ms. Love?
Yes, sir, that would be my request.
Unless Kent comes late and we'll hold it for him. Or the mayor. All right.
Or the mayor.
Or the mayor. Y'all don't need to hold it for me. I don't want to see a tie. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon Councilmember Laurie Henry for the last time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've got one item on the agenda this evening, which is the approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a memorandum of understanding with Fulton County for the 800 megahertz system in the amount of $103,548. Chiefs. They're going to tag team us.
Tag team tonight. This is for it's a fee to be assessed to each radio on the system. It's a maintenance fee, so to speak, or user fee, I should say. It's a user fee of $172.58 per radio on the system, for a total of $103,548. That would give us 600 radios on the system. This is not an uncommon practice. Other radio systems do this. Fulton County has never done it, and it would go towards maintaining the system for them. Did that cover everything, Chief, you think?
Yes.
Can I answer any questions?
What is the term of this understanding?
It's for 1 year and renewable, but it's for 1 year.
Now, it's my understanding we don't really have any options at this point in time, short term.
That's correct. So this would be our best option short term. And every public safety agency in North Fulton has met on this a couple of times, and this is our best option short term.
Now, are we looking long-term at developing a relationship with the other North Fulton cities to become independent of Fulton County?
Yes, sir.
And when do you think that time frame might be that we might be feasible to do that?
We have been meeting on it. We've already had 2 very serious meetings on that. We are exploring the options right now. I don't see us being able to do anything in the next year, which makes this MOU still viable as an option for us. It's probably it could be as early as next year, but I would doubt it. The other option out there would be to join an existing system called UASI, which is Urban Area Interoperability, but we have a lot of work to do before we could do something like that. That is a system, though, that could stand up pretty quickly. It probably would require the cities in North Fulton to invest in another repeater site, so there's really just a lot of things to work out.
So right now your recommendation is to go with this memorandum of understanding?
Yes, sir. This is our best option. This is our only option.
Over the next 12 months we'll be looking at alternatives?
Yes, sir. We've been meeting monthly on it.
Does the council have any questions? Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, when you said we're going to be looking at it during the year, and I see that this MOU is for 3 years, is there a penalty, anything, if we decide to do an early termination?
There are provisions for early termination.
All we have to do is give 30 days notice.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that.
Other questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Laurie Henry for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to thank Lori for all her years of service, since this is her last report, and the time she has put in, and her family, of course, for the city of Roswell. So I just want to thank her, since this is her last meeting for this year. Thank you, Lori.
I would ask the council to... We're going to ask for further comments, but I was waiting until after the last decision before I made my comments because we still have something else to be decided. So I'm withholding judgment and withholding comment until we get through this last item.
Does that mean you might not thank me for my years of service?
It's possible. It's possible. So
he wants to see one more vote.
we have one more vote, or at least one more discussion. There may not be a vote, but this is a discussion of the implementation of a hiring freeze until mid-year budget review. I had brought this to committee, and I had asked Kay to hold off on hiring any people to replace them other than there were some public safety employees and some enterprise zones until we had a discussion of council. This went to committee, and again we've had during this season it was hard to get a consensus of everybody. So we are in a sort of temporary hiring freeze until we hear from this council to lift it. So Kay, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Included in your packet is a memo that basically states my position regarding implementing a hiring freeze during the middle of the budget year. I'm sure you've read that, and I won't go into great detail. One of the issues or the challenges that we as staff have in implementing a hiring freeze is at what point and what snapshot. This changes daily. For instance, since you got this in your packet, we have had 3 additional personnel changes. One of them is a very critical position, being our budget director, who has resigned. So if we implement an across-the-board hiring freeze, accepting out public safety and the enterprise fund, it poses some very serious challenges when you as a council have adopted a budget where these positions were fully funded. In my memo, I was basically requesting some flexibility for if it is the desire of the mayor and council to reduce the budget during this fiscal year for us to take a look at it, then I am requesting that we be allowed as a management team and the city administrator to bring a plan to you that may include personnel or may include operating expenditures or some combination thereof. Bottom line, city business has to get done based on the level of service that we provide to our citizens. So I think you would want to know what impact that has on the operations and the delivery of services. So it's hard to do that in a vacuum and cherry pick a listing of positions to say we're implementing a hiring freeze, accepting out public safety once again. Some of these positions, as noted, have been vacant for a while, and certainly those could wait until a review of the mid-year budget. We are on track now with budget. We eliminated 6 positions during the budget process for fiscal year 2010. We aggressively budgeted $525,000 of salary savings, which we anticipate to surpass. So there are things in play right now. So we would just like to take a planned approach, and if it is the desire of the mayor and council to implement a hiring freeze, then I would need to ask for some specific positions to be allowed to be filled. Certainly we're embarking on the budget process, so that is an obvious position, and then I would need to be able to tell you what's not going to get done if we're not allowed to hire these. There are some priorities. Obviously, transportation has been going through a reorganization over the past couple of years, and we've had a change in leadership. So some of those positions have not been advertised yet, and we understand those may be more vulnerable, for lack of a better way of saying it. The one enterprise fund position, which is a utility locator position, is an indication of a department head managing that on their own. Basically, it is frozen. It hasn't been filled because there needed to be a certainty that that position was needed. Implementing aggressive vacancy savings budgeting, in essence, is a hiring freeze, because the department director has to take a look at their operations and determine, do they fill the position now or do they wait in order to meet their salary savings budget. So we understand the intensity and the importance of the economy and how that impacts our budget. We have budgeted conservatively, as we have in the past. We intend to do that, and we are prepared to make whatever changes we need to make mid-year to deliver services to our citizens. So I don't think that was ever on the table from your perspective, but I do have some concerns about implementing an hiring freeze, per se, in the very literal sense, in the middle of the budget year. I'll be happy to answer any questions or take any directives.
Let's start with questions. Councilman Orleans.
I didn't get to answer this in the committee, but I'm curious as to where this came from, since we have already decided we're having a mid-year budget review, I think next month, which is about mid-year on our budget. curious where this came from, since they were all approved in the budget and we're reviewing everything next month, why they came up on a piecemeal basis like this.
Mayor Wood requested that it be added to the agenda.
I initiated it. I initiated it when there was clear that there was a possibility of a revenues not meeting expectations. And then I brought it to council. It has been to the committee now is on 2 occasions. And at neither occasion, so it was about 3 weeks ago, I brought it immediately to the committee to say I need direction from the committee. This committee did not reach a decision either the first time it came to the committee or the second time it came to the committee. So now we're here at a council meeting to get direction from council.
So I guess
I initiated.
Right.
And now we're asking for council for their direction.
So my next question is, what are we voting on? Are you voting on for a total freeze on all these positions, a total freeze on everything in the city, or are we, voting for or against that? What are we
voting on?
Trying
whatever
to accomplish?
you want to vote on.
Whatever we want to vote on.
There was
just nitpick it, whatever we want.
But, we're asking I've asked for direction from the council on 2 occasions without a resolution. So Kay and I are both asking for direction from council in the direction you want us to go in. So it could be no freeze, complete freeze. My proposal was not a budget freeze for the remaining of the budget cycle, but I said until we get further direction from council, either now or at a mid-year budget review, let's put this on hold till we hear from council. If the council is comfortable with filling all these positions, picking some of these positions, it's up to council. So it's in the council's lap how to go. Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Love.
Yes, ma'am.
I missed the first committee meeting because I don't think y'all wanted the flu that I had. And so the last one is almost like the banking. There was only 3 council members left. Correct. To discuss this. And I know that we can't defer it any longer because of what's going on. So my question is this, and I did talk to Mr. Eisenbach and to Mr. Mooring on this. I think that the numbers here, when I see April 27th, 06, is not really clear because my understanding is that these were put on hold when we were doing the reorganization. Plus we went through one transportation director and then an interim, and then we finally got Steve on board. And my understanding is that Steve has been trying to reorganize the transportation department and letting his supervisors and everything find out what they need to run this. And am I correct that transportation was very close to advertising these positions?
They were. The job descriptions had to be revamped based on changing of duties, moving people around. In the interim, while the reorg was happening, what happened to the duties of these jobs, they were dispersed and reallocated amongst existing employees. So it's been piecemeal and parcel, so it's dysfunctional in some ways. So those job descriptions were rewritten, had been approved in Compt and HR, and they were ready to be advertised. They had not been, but they are ready as of now.
But the only reason they did not go to advertisement is because of this agenda item.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Okay. And when it comes to public works, my understanding is that Mr. Mooring was very close to hiring someone for the admin position.
They were ready to make an offer. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And again, how many times? And again, I've only been on council 2 years. Is this unusual to bring forth a list of personnel to look at freezing this without it going through the mid-year budget review?
In my experience, yes, ma'am, it is an anomaly.
Okay, and I'm going to make a statement. We hire our department heads to run our departments. And I'm looking at the department heads now, and I tell you, I don't think we could have gotten a better bunch of people right now. We got Alice on board and Steve and Stu and our police chiefs, and they're doing a great job, and I just don't feel like that that what we should be doing up here is dictating to you who to hire and who not to hire. Now, if it comes to the point that if this council decides we need to cut $200,000 off the budget, then I think what we need to do is have you go to your department heads and say, okay, how are you going to do it? And then bring it back to council and say, this is how we can cut this. But to pick and choose who we're going to let our department heads hire and who we're not going to let them hire, and not know the ramifications of our decision. You know, let's say the admin, what is the ramifications if Mr. Moran doesn't get his admin? I don't think we fully understand the ramifications. I would, for one, just say no to this. My understanding, we have it in budget. If we hire these people, we're not going to be in the red.
Correct.
We're not going to be in a deficit. We have the monies. And my thing is, I think we should let the process work, let it go to mid-year. If we decide that we need this $200,000 or $500,000 or $1 million cut, we'll let you know then. That's I cannot vote to cut anybody's position or do this hiring freeze tonight. Not if we're micromanaging, and I'm not going to do that.
So are you making a motion?
No, sir, I'm letting everybody else discuss.
Right, that's your position, but you're not willing to make a motion?
I'll be glad to make a motion. I make a motion that we do not implement a hiring freeze at this time and let it go to mid-year review.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Councilmember Price, is that a second?
That's a second. After that, a date certain.
Yes, ma'am. I think if we can say whenever, do we have a date now for a mid-year?
We were planning on doing it late January, early February when we have some final revenue numbers.
Okay, how about this? It would be no later than the first week in February.
We have a motion to...
Well, there's our council meeting in January is delayed because of the long weekend. Would we have it by then, the 20th, I believe it is?
We can, yes, ma'am.
Is that too soon?
Councilmember Price, I'm pretty sure whatever date we put out to them, they'll come back with that. So whatever you're comfortable with, if you want to do it on January 20, I can support that. If Ms.
We
Love,
can be ready.
Okay.
Do we have a motion not to initiate any, to lift any freeze until further decision of the council and to bring it back on the January 20th?
Yes, sir.
Is that the motion? Is that the second? Ms. Price, is that the gist of your second?
That was my second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Councilmember DePolito.
A question for Ms. Love. Do we currently project a shortfall?
No, we do not.
So
we do not.
Is there?
Now, I caveat that with sales tax numbers, and that's what we've been waiting on within the budget. However, there are savings within the budget now as departments have been slowing spending. Our estimate now, if we continue spending at the same rate and even filling these positions, we are about $250,000 ahead at the end of the year. Assuming that we don't tank on sales tax, and that's why we were waiting until the mid-year adjustment to see if there were any changes that need to be made.
Is December our largest month for sales tax?
It is the most volatile. It is not the largest, but it is the most volatile.
Okay, so we will have those sales tax numbers
in January. They used to be 2 months behind. Now they're 1 month behind.
So we can, by the beginning of February, we'll have a pretty good idea of how that's going to impact our budget going forward.
And how the property tax appeals are going and what our collection rate is. And we'll have a much better idea, which is typically when we take a look at it anyway. And I will say that just whatever your decision is, if you decide not to implement the hiring freeze, departments are not going to be running out and bringing people on board. They will be hiring based on need and continuing to take a look at it. The hiring process does take some time, but there are some that need to get advertised and some that need to get filled soon prior to that late January, early February time frame.
Thank you.
Further discussion. Councilman Eichelhardt.
I don't recall the exact dates, but we have had hiring freezes in the past. It wasn't maybe let out like this, but was it a year or 2 years ago where we said, okay, we're not going to hire anybody for the next 3-6 months, whatever it was. It was in the later part of the fiscal year. But I'm almost positive, I don't have that record anywhere, but we did have a point in the last few years where we said we're not hiring anybody until the budget starts.
The only thing that I recall was where we have a form where departments are required to request for a position to be filled that the city administrator signs off on. I've never known it to be a hiring freeze per se, but they had to justify the need to fill the position. So, and they could have been denied, so I guess that would be a hiring freeze.
And I haven't researched this, but at some point we said we weren't going to hire anybody else for a certain point in time. I'll have to go back and look at it, but it was it was never a voted thing like this, but we did come to that agreement at some point. So I think we actually have done that. And also we have our end of the year, and we know where things are. Like we just came forward with $1 million that were spent from other monies. But we haven't had this type of mid-year review that we're looking at based on really thinking that financial situation could be much worse than it has been.
Well, we look at it every month. We haven't brought anything to council, but staff looks at it every month.
Right, but we haven't had this kind of review that's coming up.
Correct.
So, again, these are both things that are something that stands out a little different. But my concern on this the whole time is, and particularly like transportation, and we've gone how long without having these folks in there, waiting another month with 2 weeks of a holiday vacation in there. I don't think the city's going to fall apart on that. Now, there are a couple of them that are right at that border point, and I'm sorry about that. So I understand that concern, but I have a hard time believing we're going to fall apart on that one. But my biggest concern is both the short and certainly the long-term biggest cost for this city are personnel. And when we keep adding them in there, those costs keep going, and they do increase over time. And we have never cut, well, I shouldn't say we've never, but rarely do we actually reduce positions. I mean, we'll do it if they're vacant, and we've done that. But once people are in, that doesn't go away. So I have serious concerns when we know that the next couple of years are likely to continue being difficult moving forward. And then also, just another question on this is annual salary increase. Does that also include the other costs that go along with positions, primarily benefits and other things, or is this just that salary cost?
These are just the salaries.
Right, so
I do. Actually, they are. Does it? Yeah, just salaries. Yeah, it does not include the benefits.
There are another, 20-25%
Correct.
cost
Yes.
on top of this that we're not including. So
right.
The situation is more than what's presented here.
But they're all budgeted. Those numbers are budgeted.
Right.
The amount we would save would be larger than this, yes. Or we would incur if we hired them, yes.
And certainly one of the ways we've helped deal with the worsening financial situation is not necessarily to spend everything that we've budgeted. So
yeah, we never spend everything we budget. We've been very fortunate never to have spent 100% of what we budgeted.
I don't follow that either, but okay.
Other discussion? Anyone in the audience wish to comment? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
Lee Fleck, Martin's Landing. I just have a recommendation, and I have a question for Ms. Love. My recommendation is that I certainly hope that you all reread the June 15, 2009 minutes of the City Council meeting, last year's budget, final budget meeting. My question for Ms. Love is so that we don't have the same I don't want to call it excuse, but it was that this coming June, and since you're going to defer this decision to freeze, have you done your homework with regard to the requirements for furloughs that you were reluctant to agree to last June, or will you by this coming June?
I don't think that's an appropriate question for me to answer.
Mr. Fleck, the decision of whether or not the council wants to consider furloughs needs to come from council, and if the council directs Kay to say we'd like to consider that as an option, she needs to look into. But to look into every possibility would be taking a lot of staff time. The decision, if we need to furlough, is going to take a lot of effort, a lot of time, and if the council wishes to go there, it's appropriate for Kay Love to follow up on it. But unless she gets an indication from council that's something that they're considering, it would be a waste of staff time to look at whether or not furloughs, what it would take to do furloughs. So I agree with Ms. Love. It's really up to this council of whether or not they wish Kay to research that, not up to you.
I think I've made my point. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else wish to comment? Yes, come forward, please. And if you'll give us your name and address, please, for the record.
Sorry, I almost sat here and stayed quiet. I'm Nancy Diamond, 550 Indigo Drive.
These people know what they're doing. I think it's great to be cutting, and I think there's a lot we can cut and things we can look at, but I think there's smart spending and there's smart cutting, and I think the people who have to do the cutting need to make those calls before we get to that point. I know, we're looking at a dismal future with the tax base, and I'm ready to do whatever hard work we need to do that. But in the interim, I think there's already been staff time spent that I don't think is accounted for in these numbers, nor is the fact that some of these positions are presently being filled by temps, so we're not actually saving that salary at this point. So I'd just like to make the point that I think we've hired the best people to do the job, and I'd like to let them do it. Thanks.
Thank you. Just want to disagree with one point. I think we have a bright future and not a dismal future. So I just want to clear that little point up. Don't want to leave that it's all good. Left. It's all good.
It's all good.
Ms. Love, back to you.
I have nothing further, sir.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That's Councilman Orleans, Councilman Price, Councilman Wynn, Councilman DiPolito, Councilman Henry in favor of it, all opposed. Councilman Eichelhart passes 5-1. At this time, I would like to compliment Laurie Henry and thank her for 8 years of service on the council, and was it 2 years before that on Design Review Board? She's always demonstrated passion for the job. She has worked hard. I think she's made it if not full time, at least devoted more time to this position than most of us. She's been creative in her suggestions, and and I think Roswell is a better place to live now than when she came into office. And she's had a big contribution in making that. So I want everybody to stand up and give her applause. And with that, I'll open it up to the council for other closing comments. Councilmember Wynn.
The only thing I can say, Mr. Mayor, is the next time you appoint somebody to DRB, don't make it a woman. Because you have three of us sitting up here that started with the DRB and came straight to council. But I have to say to Lori, when I came on, I could go to her office on anything and ask her what happened. Get the history, get whatever I needed, the information that I needed to make the right decision. And her door was always open to me, and I really appreciated that, and gave me all the signs that I needed to do what I thought was right. So, Lori, I do appreciate you doing that for me. You took somebody, kind of wet behind the ears and helped me out, and I really do appreciate that. And I hope that you and Carl have a nice vacation and probably get to know one another again. But again, thank you so much for your open door policy. I appreciated it.
Any other closing words? Councilman Orleans.
Yeah, I'll just finish up thanking you for your time and effort. As I was saying, not only yours, but your family's time that comes into this type of thing. And Lori's always been one to do her homework and know the issues and know what she was trying to talk about and go the direction she wanted to go to. So we appreciate all the work and effort. Thank you, Lori.
Any other closing words? Councilmember DiPolito.
One word that I think describes Lori really well is leadership, and I think she's really shown tremendous leadership on the council, and her years on the DRB really has earned the respect of the community and of this council. And I just want to say thank you, Lori, for your years and for the leadership that you've shown. I think there's a lot of people who admire and respect you, and I'm one of them. Thank you.
Any other closing words? Councilmember Price.
Don't want to be left out. Unfortunately, though, I have not served very long with Lori since our overlap is very short, but in that short period of time I have a great deal of respect and admiration for you, and I hope we will be able to rely on you for advice and counsel in the future. Thank you.
Kent, you have to say something.
No, well, I thought we might do this in January, but we'll just say, obviously we came on together at the same time, and thanks for all the help you've given me, and I think you have led the way on many important issues, redevelopment, different task forces, things that you've done, and have set a direction for us, and I hope that we can continue much of that work as we go forward. and look forward to having you involved one way or another, even if you don't want to. But thank you for everything you've done, and I've enjoyed working with you, and I will see you many times in the future.
Lori, I'm going to give you the last words if you'd like to take that opportunity.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for your kind words, and it has truly been my pleasure to serve the citizens of Roswell and the city of Roswell. And I am looking forward to a new chapter in my life. I'm not sure what that will bring. I'm leaving it open and never closing a door on any opportunity. However, I must say that this is very timely with travel. My daughter is a junior in college, and my husband and I are empty nesters. And I am here to tell you, those folks out there that tell you that they cry and lament and gnash their teeth when they become empty nesters, I don't know what they're talking about, because my husband and I are having a blast. It's the first time in close to 20 years that we can just up and head out of town when we want to, and we have a lot of freedom, and I just plan on enjoying that. So that I can tell you, I believe I've said it once before, this new chapter is going to be fun. Thank you.
We're adjourned. We have a work session.